331 BC. Near the small village of GUAGAMELA, in present-day Iraq, two vast forces of men are engaged in a battle for the future of the world. On one side is the great king of Persia, Darius, commander of the largest army on Earth.
He probably had 200 to 250,000 men on the field.
On the other side is an army 1/5 the size, led by a 26-year-old named Aleksandar.
He was, at this point in his young life, a veteran commander.
Prepare to experience the greatest battle of the ancient world like never before. Witness firsthand the innovative strategies and weapons of war.
They'd have a weapon much like this, a very aerodynamic spear.
Who was Aleksandar? How could he possibly face an army 5 times his number?
His tactics are still in use today. His ideas are still in use today.
What was Alexander's secret weapon?
Alexander was a phenomenon.
Go back in time and experience one of the world's greatest battles.
GUAGAMELA was a turning point in world history.
The lines have been drawn, the odds impossible. Prepare for battle. It's a fight to the finish that will change history forever and define one young man as Aleksandar the Great. October 1st, 331 BC, near the village of GUAGAMELA. The two most powerful armies in the world, the Persians and Macedonians, are about to clash. The Macedonian army moves first, even though they are outnumbered 5 to 1. Their young leader, Aleksandar, orders his elite troops to attack the center of the Persian line.
What was at stake at GUAGAMELA was the entire Persian Empire.
Darius, king of Persia, has no intention of losing his empire. He had lost before to Aleksandar at the Battle of Issus. Now he is determined to crush the boy king. Darius orders his men to attack Alexandar's left flank.
Darius was setting a trap, and he was forcing Aleksandar to march right into it.
The Persian king orders the release of his most deadly weapons, war chariots designed to slice the enemy to pieces.
If you're Aleksandar, what are you going to do against something like that?
Facing incredible odds and terrifying weapons, will Aleksandar be able to save his men and his kingdom? The story of GUAGAMELA really began in a small backwater of the ancient world, a region north of the Greek peninsula called Macedon. This mountainous region was considered barbaric by the Greeks because it was a monarchy, not a democracy. And from childhood on, the boys of Macedon, like Aleksandar, were raised to be warriors.
No! Pali! Pali Nexarchis!
Aleksandar was familiar with the great heroes of Homeric legend, and he came from a society that valued those heroes. They reveled in anything which demonstrated their personal courage.
Alexandar's father was King Philip of Macedon. A grizzled veteran of tribal wars, he was a student of the art of war. Philip's leadership and army unified the people of Macedon. He had made Aleksandar a cavalry commander at age 16. Philip was not only a brilliant statesman, but a brilliant innovator.
What Philip did was to remake Macedonia into the most powerful state in the ancient world.
He literally changed the way armies were organized and the way they fought.
Philip creates an army of professionals. He actually pays them, and pays them well.
They drilled year-round, and they were in units along with people from their home regions. So they were very cohesive, and they were very well trained, and therefore much more maneuverable.
With Macedon transformed into a regional power, Philip now intended to unify all of Greece under his command.
Promeneo, prasta pragmata.
Hoi Athanaio, ke hoi boitute. Sumi Mackensen.
Ko profoi eso, tus Athanaius. Oposun epithoso, sun kapsumen et kainos. Katastasos Aleksandran. Hegemon ton hippon. Et toimos esti.
Thanks, Prepis, Alexander.
The other formative force in the life of Alexander was his mother, Olympias. The daughter of a conquered king, she became Philip's bride as a spoil of war.
Her relationship with Philip was rocky at best.
She had sort of been cast aside in favor of another, more beautiful new wife. And so you might say Alexander had some resentment because he felt that his mother had been wrongfully denied a certain privileged place. Olympias might even have feared that this new wife would produce a son, who Philip would then favor as his heir, rather than favoring Alexander.
In 336 BC, destiny changed Alexander's life when Philip of Macedon was assassinated. For Macedon and the young Alexander, this would mean one thing.
Aleksandra.
Termu technique.
Nai. Allaho basileoso.
Philip's death did not stop the Macedonian plans for conquest. Just 20 years old, Alexander took control of the army and marched on Greece, which rebelled after Philip's death. Athens and the other city-states surrendered to the young king. The Macedonian army was unstoppable. Next, Alexander turned his attention east to Persia.
The Persian Empire was, in its day, the greatest empire in history. There had never been anything like this, as big as the Persian Empire, as organized as the Persian Empire. At its height, it stretched from the Indo-Pakistani border in the east all the way to Macedon, and in the south, it included Egypt. Persians and the Greeks had been at war in one way or another since about 550 BC, so for well over 200 years.
Persia had invaded Greece, had conquered Macedonia, had burned Athens to the ground, had violated the temples of the gods.
Alexander grew up with the idea that the ultimate grand prize was the Persian Empire.
In 334 BC, Alexander led his army of 45,000 men east into the lands claimed by the Empire of Persia. Legend says that while marching through the center of present-day Turkey, Alexander visited a temple outside the town of Gordium. The temple was the home of a famous riddle, the Gordian knot, an ancient puzzle created by the gods. A knot so intricate that whoever untied it would become Lord of Asia. This was an irresistible challenge for Alexander, who had already declared that he would conquer the continent.
In those days, particularly for a guy like Alexander, who was steeped in the Iliad and the whole heroic tradition, if you were a king, you were supposed to go out and conquer the world.
Eloton peride ukedlo, mitinakai todo etus pelus 15 igresete.